happy Thursday. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It is the 23rd of December. It is the day before Christmas Eve. It was the day before the night before Christmas. That's actually a song. So good morning,
But I'm
everyone.
happy I never heard.
I
Okay.
am the badass Buddha, Lori Monaco. I am your teacher, speaker, coach, your author, your chiropractor, your wellness and weight loss specialist. I am here in sunny southern, but cold Connecticut. Good morning. Good morning.
Buenos días, mi gente, aquí con la Margarita, your gladiator guru here, also in sunny. It's sunny, so I had to close the blinds because if not, it was gonna wash me out. Southern Connecticut, it's nippy to say the least. And it's my niece's birthday today, so happy birthday, Stephanie.
That's my friend's daughter's birthday today, too, so I have to send a text over to her.
Yes, it's her 31st birthday. So those are exciting. I remember those. I
Wow,
remember those
31.
birthdays as if they were yesterday. But yeah, and it's the eve of Christmas. I'm not gonna sing to you today. Good morning, Tiffany Torres, my beautiful
No.
daughter. Tiffany Bryan and Tiffany Torres. Look at that. Powerful teas. No, I'm not singing today. But yes, um, did you describe who you are?
I did.
All
Did
of
it
it?
all. Yep.
Oh, maron. Um, and I was just trying to figure out. But I am Margarita de Margarita, which means I belong to me. I am.
Lost in thought.
No, it's garbled. I must not truly be awake. But what am I? I am a lover of love. I am the northeast wind and the Caribbean breeze. I am your artist, author, sacred healer. I am your end of life doula, and I am la Margarita, la mujer completa, a goddess in awe of herself, which makes me magically orgasmic. Mi gente, good morning. Good morning. Buenos dias.
Good morning, Gwen. You were a little loss of words this morning. You didn't have your coffee yet, huh?
No, I'm not. I'm actually drinking it now, but it's not that. It's just, I wanted to change it up a bit. Then I was thinking about what affirmation or mantra, whichever one I have to say. It's like everything came up at once. It was that first sip of coffee I took when we were signing on. We were dancing as the intro carried through. But yeah,
All right.
I'm up and running right now.
Up and running right now. All right. Well, that's great because we have a fantastic topic to speak about today. I didn't realize I didn't have my mic plugged in, but we really do, and it goes along with what we spoke about on Tuesday, being magically orgasmic with our phenomenal guest and fan favorite, Ephraim, and we're going to be talking about today. Uninhibited. Being uninhibited is. We started the conversation on Tuesday. We ended that conversation with that word uninhibited, and we're going to talk about that. And this is a great way. This is a great conversation to have going into the new year, ending the new year, because we have questions for you. We have challenges for you, and not challenges like, oh, this is the 31-day challenge or 30-day challenge. This is like, we want to challenge you to be the warrior in your life. Basically, we want you to stand up and be the gladiator or the badass Buddha. It doesn't really matter. These names are our names because we earned these names. But you could be a badass Buddha. You could be a gladiator guru. You could create your own name for yourself. But it takes having to really decide who you are and who you want to be. Period. So good morning, Lillian. Great morning to you. Argenis, Maria del Pilar. Good morning. Feliz Navidad.
Peru's in the
Thank
house.
you.
Yes.
So Gladiator Guru, we have some phenomenal conversations today. We were really, she was texting me yesterday and she was just like fielding information, just flowing out. And then this morning I started, I had gotten away from doing my morning routine, and my morning routine consisted of getting up very early, 5:30, and meditating or breathing or sitting quietly for a few minutes, and then reading, and taking like an hour to read. And I had stopped that for a good 2 months. I think I hadn't been doing that. I've been sleeping very poorly. And so finally today I opted to do that. And the book that I'm reading, of course, there was a few things that as soon as I started reading, I was like, going to have to talk about them today. And this is the book that I'm reading, and I highly recommend. It's already fantastic. Motivation Manifesto by Brendan Burchard. And it was a #1 New York Times bestseller. So, and it's beautiful. You would love it. I'm going to
Well,
tell you that.
aside from that, what is the body of it? Because I've read some bestsellers that were pieces of shit and didn't do nothing for me.
9 declarations to claim your personal power. But he writes it as a declaration, and like the first part of it, the very beginning, starts as the entire declaration, and he lists the nine things that you're going to declare, and then each chapter talks about each declaration and how to do it. But they're just so phenomenal. Like, they really are. I mean, it's not nothing we've not heard before, right? But it's the way he wrote it. It just makes you feel very empowered when you're reading it, And again, that's being uninhibited, like not holding back. And that's the energy that's coming from this book, is not holding back. So yeah, I was reading it, and just the words, I know you would love it. So because he's poetic in that sense and direct like you are.
Okay. Is it something, because one book that we don't mention enough, and it's out there, and I have all of his books, which are good, are the 4 Agreements. There's simplicity. There's 4 agreements that you make to yourself by Don Miguel
Ruiz, yeah.
And so that, when you were explaining that, that's what brought me to that.
Now, what's funny is I read the 4 Agreements. I agree with the 4 Agreements. But I thought that the book itself was a little boring. Like, I thought it was very simple, and it was a little on the boring side. So
when did you read it? There's certain times in our lives when we pick up and reread a book.
This over the spring. I read it in the spring.
No, I'm saying, where were you spiritually? There's certain because I can totally understand what you're saying, because that's the first time I read it. I was like, what? Everybody's making such a big buzz about this book. Like, and I put it down. And it wasn't until a year later that I read it again. And then my brother and some of his friends that I correspond with that are in prison, that I love them, freedom. They've read it, and then they've written to me about their perspective. It's like I have a book club going on with inmates, which is phenomenal, because it gets them to read, it gets them to broaden their mind, and then I get to find out what great books to read, because I'm supposed to be busy with life, right? So that's how that works. But I've read it 3 times, but the first 1.5 times, I was like, what the hell is the big to do about this?
That's how I felt.
And it mi gente, when you're reading or watching something, take notes of where you are mentally and spiritually in that moment, because you won't be a magnet to positivity. You're going to be wallowing and becoming besties with that misery that you're carrying around, that whatever feeling. And so then I read it again, and then it hit, because that's how it is with life. It is that simple. We make it difficult.
Yes.
Love doesn't hurt. Life isn't difficult. The choices we make are what makes our situations difficult and painful. The people we choose to love, or the way we choose to love, and not understanding what's our love language and all of that. So try and read it again. All that to say, Badass Buddha, you would love it if after you read this one, because this one seems like it excited you, go ahead and pick it up again, and then just read 1 agreement a day. After you read this book, 1 agreement a day, put it down, and then come back to it, because it's the simple things in life which elevate us to the status we need to be in. We forget.
And you read this one?
Yes, I definitely want to.
It's here's what I noticed. So this is the year-end review, right? And year-end review is necessary for you to start your new year. I don't give a rat's ass if you don't think that you need to do it. You need to do it. Otherwise, you're going to do the same crap the next year. And that's exactly what happened to me this year. Okay. And so I'm really, really big on this. You have to take the time to do this. And it includes deciding, people, you always hear this as, oh, in personal development, you have to read, you have to, who's reading this book? It's like a competition. And I have, the last few books that I have read were all money-based sort of books, right? Business-based, which are fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I lost me. I lost my spirit, right? And so I decided, and I don't want to say all of them were like that. It's just, they just were leaning towards that, right? So I decided that I got to go back to old school. I got to go back to what worked for me. And it was that spirit, deep connection to unlimited potential, that kind of stuff, and that's why I decided to read this book. And so I have like this pile of books. I have like 5 books in the waiting to read, and so I thought to myself, if I got back onto my routine and started reading like I normally do and read at least an hour every single day, I'll be able to get through all these books. And I do that. I go in spurts, I'll like read a bunch of books and then I like don't read any books for a couple of months, but the thing that was beautiful about this particular book, as are the other books that I've read, like the one that we talk about all the time, Maktab, The Alchemist, there's something within that book that just, you feel it, as you're reading it, you feel it, and it resonates with you and connects with you, and it spawns you to look further and become a better version of yourself. And so the moment I started reading this book, and again, this might not be the book for everybody, I'm saying for me, I started reading it and I instantly started getting ideas and started scratching stuff down and writing stuff down. That is the beauty of self-discovery and to be self-inspired, because if it doesn't matter if you're meditating, if you're just breathing, if you're looking out at something beautiful, if you're drinking Gladiator Guru's naturally orgasmic coffee, if you have that moment of inspiration, and then all of a sudden you feverishly start writing stuff down, that's when you know that it's where you need to be. How many times have you read something and you just were not into it, or you're just writing because it's telling you to write, or you're answering questions in it, not where you're finding yourself wanting to highlight certain things or write stuff down or create your own from that. Good morning, Michelle Hollis. Good morning, Francia.
Yes. I think, and it all goes to being uninhibited. It's about trusting yourself. You know what? We all would love people who say, oh, you need to read this book, you need to read that book. And that's all good, because there's books that you're going to read that you probably would have never heard of that really resonates with one. Then there's books you're going to read and it's not going to, when you know yourself and you read a book that is going to be like, oh, this is too businessy, this is whatever the case may be. But just in suggestions that people make, and then you attempt to say, okay, let me say they said this book is good. It's never a waste of time, because it's always one step closer to learning yourself.
That's correct.
Totally and completely, to where you do live an uninhibited life with structure, with boundaries, right? Because we got to hold ourselves accountable, but we do it because the way we know that it's going to be flexible, like the branches of a tree, where it's going to ebb and flow, because we're going to know who we are. And that's what being uninhibited is about. It's not about just doing everything, being impulsive and what's that other word that I used to be, and sometimes I still am. It's not about that. It's good to be impulsive, but not to the point where it's going to wreak havoc on your life, and your scheduled routine life, and your bank account. So, I mean, all of that with the so just read and discover. You might never know that you would like I love Marcus Aurelius. He wrote a book to self. It was really just writing things down about himself. It's called Meditations, but I have several of Marcus Aurelius's book, and they're wonderful. And, The Art of War teaches you self-discipline. It's not even about war. It's not going out there fighting people. It's all about teaching you. So there's a lot of books out there that we can read that are so the titles or maybe when they were written, because Marcus Aurelius is like from what century?
Yes.
But they still teach you, still the human touch. So, and it resonates. So it doesn't matter what year it was written in. It doesn't matter if it was written today with yesterday's history. Sometimes we need to be, shaken awake. So I thank you for the book thing, because you know what? We do need to have more books, book clubs. Do it online, do Zoom book clubs. I have my book clubs with the inmates at Cheshire Prison, and I'm happy about it. These niggas read. They be sending me lists of books to read, and I'm like, how do they know about all these books? But guess what? That's a blessing, because then we can share. And that's the whole part of book clubs, right? Is being uninhibited as to where someone's at, with status in their life. Don't matter what style of books they like to read. We're going to share what made us feel good.
That's
Because in
correct.
that, there's a little, that, that little snowflakes, that there's none that are the same, no two that are the same, but they fall beautifully united, and then they create this blanket of beauty. That's what our suggestions to each other, and it is. And we're stuck on reading, but yeah. And all this goes back to why we want to discuss a recent book, and we're going to let the badass Buddha talk about it.
Oh, our recent book, yes, because
Because it hasn't been spoken about, it hasn't been bragged about. I feel Francia has really made it a point to, my marketer, and that she's been posting a lot of stuff about it, but it hasn't been spoken about. And I feel that we're going to live uninhibited. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that's what a lot of us did in this book, which the badass will explain. And I think that it is so courageous that we all gathered together. We all sat with ourselves and decided what we were going to write, regardless of who was going to be offended. Because in actuality, when you speak your truth, many will be offended, but it's still your truth. And that's
yes,
where the beauty lies. And that's
yeah,
what we did. So,
yeah, I agree. And it's actually was released a month ago today, so that's
yeah,
funny. Exactly a
that's
month
why
ago
I
today.
wanted to talk about
And
it.
it's so we released the ebook of her badass story, and it's a compilation book. It's 9 women, including myself and Gladiator Guru, and it's our stories. Our stories of some of the things that were are the what felt like the worst things of our lives at that moment in time, and then how we pulled through and what we did to transform ourselves. And so yeah, the women in there were very honest, very vulnerable, and very inspiring. So the ebook was released a month ago. The actual physical book, which should be released, I believe it's in another week. I think we're not going to hit Christmas, but we're going to hit possibly before the end of the year. I'm not 100% sure. I got to see. We're still finalizing the book cover. There were some issues with the physical book cover, um, we definitely, it's not just because we wrote the book. We definitely recommend that you check the book out if you haven't read it already. And if you did purchase the ebook, which, by the way, those of you that did purchase the ebook, thank you so much for doing so, because you did. We reached international bestseller for Amazon in 3 countries. Number 1 in 2 of the countries, number 3 in 1 of the countries. Actually, no, I'm sorry. Number 1 in 3 countries, and then we were number 3 in a 4th country. And we reached this because people were kind enough to support us and purchase the ebook. You could still get the ebook. It's not 99 cents anymore. I believe it's like $2 and something. Or you could wait for the physical book. And I have to say, I'm very excited about the physical book, just because I want to be able to have a book in my hand that I was a part of, and so I can't wait for it to come in, and I'm really excited for it to be here, so that we're hoping that, you'll all purchase. Again, even if you purchase the ebook, there's just something different about having the paper in, and turning the pages and seeing it,
And
because some people
smelling
just
it.
purchased. Yeah.
And smell it. I smell
And me
my
too. Yeah, I'm
books.
the same
I
way.
went on the discussion on Tuesday. I am in tune with all my senses. The one that is a hindrance to me is the taste, because you just want to keep tasting and tasting and tasting. And then you're like, oh my God, I'm so fat. But the taste. so I try to smell more often and enjoy it. Go ahead.
Good morning, Eileen. Good morning, Michelle Houston. Yay. We haven't seen
Yes,
Michelle
but I
in a
haven't
while.
seen you in a while.
Um,
Chanel hasn't been on the show. It's so good to see you.
So,
now you're here.
yeah, so we're, you know, this is just the beginning. Gladiator Guru she already has 3 books down. She and I are doing a book together this year. I'm looking to at least start my solo book this year, if not get it out by the end of the year, but we'll see how it goes. And I want to do another Her Badass Story book compilation and collect more stories to be released for June. So I'm looking for people right now. It takes about 4 months to really get it going, although it'll be a little bit faster since we have the book cover already. We just have to make some changes. So it's a matter of just getting the people who want to sign on to do it. So if you know anybody who's interested, if you're interested, there is a cost to sign up because you're buying into the expense of publishing the book, but it's not that much. So come talk to me. And the women who did this were so thrilled to be able to say that they've written in a book that became an international bestseller, and there's no reason why we can't have that happen again. So, but that book really sort of defines being uninhibited. I remember as this was really coming to where we were just getting ready to do the final manuscript, before we sent it to the final edit, that I even went through a little bit of state of panic because of what I wrote. And then like 3 other authors were panicked about what was written because they knew it was going to affect other people, and they didn't want other people to get hurt, or they didn't want it to be misconstrued. And so we had to have conversations about this, but in the end, your story is your story. So it's like, if other people are involved, then there's nothing that can be done because they were part of that story, whether it's good or bad. They were part of that story, and they made you, or they helped make you who you are today because of the choices that you made. So, but it's being uninhibited. It's finally stepping up and saying, this is my life, and I'm going to live my life the way I want to live my life. So we'll let you all know when the book is available, and how to purchase it. The actual physical book, you still could go online. Eileen had mentioned, can you send me the link again? I could send it to you, but you could also go on Amazon, and if you look up Her Badass Story, you'll see it'll bring you to it, and they'll have the link there for the ebook. So what do you want to do? How do you want to start this?
Well, I just wanted to piggyback. I think we already started the uninhibited part. The stories are deep, and they range from all topics, but they're deep because they're from an experiences. And I want to say hello, Piritza, and my brother Moyeto. Thank you for being on, brother.
And Bill Atkins, good morning.
Bill Atkins. And I think that when you're ready to tell your story, I think people do have those emotions about, oh my God, are they going to get mad at me? Because that happened. My mom was upset with me on my first book because I spoke about her being presently absent for the most part of my life. And I spoke about my father's drug addictions and womanizing. And someone explained the book. And, when it's a third party explaining your words, it's always garbled and added with more drama and flair. But he told me that he was proud of me, that I was able to put my truth out there and not worry about them being upset. And that's how he always wanted me to be. So, you have all these different pointers. And I guess that's why I was raised. When I write my stories. And if you get offended, oh, well, then going forward, know not to ever do this to someone else.
That's exactly right.
Because you know what? The curtain was pulled from you, and you can't hide behind your shadow anymore, because that also abandoned you in my truth about you.
There's quotes at the beginning of each chapter that sort of symbolize that particular chapter. And the one that's at the start of my chapter sums it all up, especially for my chapter. But I mean, it's the truth. It's exactly what Gladiator Guru said. It's like, if you didn't want to, if you thought that nobody should know about what you've done, if you affected somebody and you don't want them to know what you did, then you should have behaved better.
Not so much behave better, but be aware of what you're doing. If you're a narcissist, then figure out how to change that. If you're just an asshole, there's always room for change. And that's what
own it.
People got to understand. I am an asshole, but you know what? I'm going to be more aware of my attitudes, around the people I love. You know,
Yes.
you don't have to just change all the way around for everybody, but start with the people you love, because you know what? No matter how close we are in blood or friendship, we still get wounded by words. We still get offended, maybe because it is that we're close for whatever reason. Anyway, my chapter that I wrote, it took me 34 years later to ever write about this chapter. And then I wrote it in the time where chaos was breaking out across the United States about this very subject. And I said, what am I going to write about? I can write about this. I've already written about that in this book and that book and whatever. I said, I have to write about something I never spoke about. And then I'm listening to the news and Texas and all this kind of stuff and all these craziness they were creating and trying to overturn Roe versus Wade. And I was like, this is the greatest story. You know why? Because it's my story. And it's what happened to me and how it made me feel and how I'm okay. And I no longer live in shame and in guilt. And that's what I want women across the world to realize, that when you make a decision, mind, body, and soul, so that nobody could ever point fingers and make you feel bad about your decision, nor do you continue to live in guilt. And that is being uninhibited with self-love.
Right. And I'm going to have to excuse myself for a couple minutes in a moment, but I wanted to mention a couple of things from the book. And then you also had you had sent a couple of things that you wanted to talk about. And so it says, let us not forget the thing we are after, humankind. And is this oh no, I'm on the wrong chapter. Sorry. Why, having been endowed with the courageous heart of a lion, do we live as mice? That's the question he posed in there. When will we be ready to ascend to another level of existence? And that's and in order for us to ascend to another level of existence, to be born as lions and ascend from behaving as mice, and mice is a really good term because or sheep lately. It's more like you're a lion or you're a sheep lately. Are you just following the herd, or are you stepping up and being yourself? In order for this to happen, we need to be uninhibited. We need to let go.
And to be uninhibited, don't just jump from being meek or a mouse to be a lioness, because let's be honest, the lion is the king of the jungle, but it's the laziest motherfucker you can find in there. Sleeps 23 hours a day, and it's the lion that goes out and hunts and has his back and all of that. So be a lioness. But it's steps. And as long as you're taking those steps to come out and be uninhibited, things are going to be frightening, because any change is frightening. Changing the color of shoes you wear can be frightening. Like, oh my, okay, I'm going to wear it today. How about me? I hate brown, but sometimes there's some pretty brown boots. And I'll put it on, and the minute I go to walk out the door, I'm like, I can't do this. So, I mean, it's simple steps, and people forget that underlying momentum of change, which is the smallest steps possible. They just want to take the big leaps. So anybody have questions on that? Well, the badass Buddha, you're gonna leave now?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave in like a minute. Okay. Yeah.
So I would say, if anybody has a question about that lion, with the question you read,
I want to see, but I'm gonna leave you to go and you do your beautiful thing. But this, we're seeing so few viewers on here, and let me tell you, this is a really, really important conversation. I know everybody's busy, but for those of you that are listening, share, invite, get people to come on, because they need to hear this. And we're gonna have a half an hour left to talk about being uninhibited. If you want to end your year right, you need to be uninhibited, and you need to hear this conversation. So with that, you got this, Gladiator Guru. You start getting them out there and share it. Please share. Get as many people on as possible.
It's like that saying, they say you can take a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that's how it is with us humans. That's how it is in life. We want things for better. We want to change. We want to add more positivity to our life. We want to walk around with more vibrant energy, but are we willing to do the work? And that's what it takes. Is the work hard labor, working 12 hours under a hot sun, picking up brick and mortar and moving it from one place. No, it can be just as simple as making a decision for yourself. Do I want to change? And then what are the steps to help me make change, or just fall into it? Fall into it. If you know that you've been avoiding people and you've been in the house, then just wake up one day and go for a walk. Walk 30 minutes one way and then turn around and come back. That'll be a whole hour of being under the sun, of breathing in fresh air, of listening to the birds and watching whatever leaves are left on the trees sway with the wind. You know, they're just watching the interaction of people when they're walking by or driving by. I mean, that's a change. That's a big step towards change, is doing something different than you're normally doing. So as you start doing that, you gradually just become uninhibited to the things that you were accustomed to, the things that you're used to doing, or the things you never thought that you can do, you're doing. Because let me tell you, movimiento es vida, movement is life. So when you go out there and you try to make a change and you do it alone, it's still choices you're making for a healthier you. You know, it's like when and I wrote something down, it says, you have to you have to dance in the rain, you know, get drenched, get soaked. Not now because it's cold and you're gonna catch a probably pneumonia, but you know, you have to travel down the healing boulevard. It's not so much meditating on what's going wrong and how you're gonna fix. No, you gotta get up and move your ass. You gotta get up, whether you're gonna go work in your garden, which I wish I had that green thumb to go out and nurture beauty stuff like that. Whether you get up and you have your routine of drinking your cafe con leche and then shower, whatever, then you go out. And if you're just going out into your yard and you got to put the hat on and you get the shears and you put the gloves on and you start trimming leaves or moving the dirt around or watering it, that's still action. That's movement in your life to continue to have the beauty in your life. And beauty can be, if you don't have a garden, go out for a walk. If you have a pet, walk your pet. There's so many small steps we can take that leave such a big impact in our lives. But are you willing to participate in your life enough to lower the guardrails so that you may look over and look at the beautiful life of nature and how you can incorporate it into your life? I mean, because we're just like a little dot in this world, right? But in that dot, we are. And in that moment that we are, then let's just create beauty around us. And if we can't create it because it's already there, then participate in it. That's the first step of being uninhibited, is taking that first step to do something different, or to go back to what you used to do and somehow it got lost in this mess of 2020 till now. Because let's keep it real, hardly nobody talks about it unless it's what they label conspiracy theories. But a lot of people kind of stopped being who they were in the early part of 2020. Well, let's get back to it, because we need a stronger mentality for whatever it is to come, right? You know, we need our spirits to be healthy, which if our spirit's healthy, there's less stress. And if there's less stress, our immune system maintains at a level where it's going to fight off anything that comes on. And then our body needs to be strong. If we got to fight, if we got to run, if we got to hide, whatever it is that we got to do with whatever's coming forward, stand and march tall. But we have to navigate towards that healing boulevard. And we have to make those small steps. Everything starts small. I mean, you know, there's a refrain that we've all used, we've all heard, that you got to crawl before you walk. And then you got to learn how to walk before you run. That still holds true for us today. No matter how old we are, we forget the basic rules. You know, everything we need in life to progress at any stage, at any age, we learned in kindergarten. Put things back where you found it. Keep your hands to yourself. Look both ways before you cross the street. Say please and thank you. Everything that we needed, those simple kindergarten rules, were to carry us through this life. And we forgot them. Why? Because that inner child still thrives within us. Unite with it. Talk to your inner child. Find out what it needs and allow it to give you what you need, which is imagination. Imagination has died with all our hopes, with all our false loves that we wholeheartedly gave into. So The choice is always up to you. What is it that you want to begin? What is it that you need to let go of to live that uninhibited life that's going to bring you joy? And then with you, it's going to pour from your pores and share it with all of those around you. Hola, Milagro, ¿cómo está? Mary Jane.
My aunt, Mary Jane. Aunt Mary
Mary
Jane.
Jane.
I don't know if you've touched on it. So thank you for holding the fort down because, here's the bottom line. Be you and be unapologetic about it. Okay? Do not give a crap about what other people think. When you do that, it harms your spirit. It prevents you from living the life you're meant to live. It makes you depressed. It throws you off your game. It gives you anxiety. I mean, that's the reality of it. And I'm living proof of that. For freaking 30 years of my life, I was always inhibited in some way, and I held back. I played small, and enough already. Like, we can't do that anymore. Don't we see outside? When we look outside, people are miserable. They're miserable, and then they have every other excuse of why they're miserable instead of saying, because I'm not living the life I want to live. They don't usually say that. They just say, oh, I'm miserable, I'm this. And then they medicate themselves with alcohol, drugs, food, shopping, binge watching shows to distract them from the miserable life that they live in, because they are not saying what they want to say and they're not asking what they want to ask for. And they are living an inhibited life.
An inhibited life that's fueled by fear. There's
Yes.
a saying in Spanish. I don't know all the Spanish, but I know maybe in puertorriqueña. It says, el miedo se deja en la gaveta. The fear, you leave it on in your top drawer. You put that bitch there. And then you continue with your day. There's too many people living in fear of whatever. Fear of being judged, talked about, labeled as not being smart, labeled as being poor. There's so much out there that we just, it's like if you can really see through a person and look at their spirit, they're filled with post-it notes. I'm no good, I'm fat, I'm ugly, and the thing is, who gives a shit what they think about you? My saying is, I'm always for me. You know what? No matter what battle we go in, I'm always gonna bet on me. Because the battle isn't a physical battle, it's a mind. So we must, it's so much easier
To choose to be happy than be miserable.
Yes, but how do you get there? And that's by just, you know what? Keeping your boundaries, your integrity intact, your values. Don't let nobody talk you out of your values, no matter how much you love them. If they're your kid, your mother, your siblings, your lover, it doesn't matter. Because
That's
at
right.
the end of the day, you're all you have. So you can't blame anybody for your misery. You
That's
can't
right.
say, because when I was 7, this happened and that's why I can't be happy. Those are crutches. I had shit happen to me at 6 and blah, 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 blah. And you know what? I'm the badass bitch you're gonna ever know. Why?
Right.
Because I don't care about people's opinions. Okay. I live in a way that I'm always there. I'm always there. You need me. Those who know me, you need me. You call me any hour of the day. I'm there. But the thing is, I'm gonna live my way. If I go to your house and you give me water in a plastic cup, I'm not gonna drink it. I'm gonna say, "Oh no, thank you. I don't do plastic." You might get offended. The people that this has happened to might have gotten offended. But am I gonna be miserable and disgusted because I don't do plastic and just because they might get offended? No, because the next time I go over there, guess what? We're not gonna have to go through this uncomfortable scene, right? You want water, Margie? Yeah, let me get some water. They're gonna bring me a glass of water or a bottle of water. And that's not being mean. That's being true to me and living so uninhibited that if I'm going to live my truth, then I have to be truthful with you. And some people, yes, they are stuck in the past. But how about us that are stuck here worrying about everyone else around us instead of feeding our spirits? So to be uninhibited, you must inquire within. Read. We all should read the book that the badass is reading because that piqued my interest. I can read that book. But put it up again so people can see it. So what is it that you need to do for you? Figure it out, because we can hand you the tools, and out of the tools we hand out, you pick the ones that right at this moment you can deal with. Keep the list, but only pick out or highlight the ones that you can deal with today. When you deal with it today, 3 days later, revisit the list, because I bet you there's 2 or 3 more that you can apply to your life on that day. Don't try to take it all on. It's going to overwhelm you. You're going to give up, like we all give up on our New Year's resolutions. To live uninhibited, you must have self-trust and self-love. Take it away, badass.
I was typing. Again, if you're, sometimes it is your past that's holding you back, or what you believe yourself to be, and sometimes it's just stupid fear, like period of fear of just moving forward. Like, you might say to yourself, I do like myself, and I feel good about myself, and I know that I'm really good at this, but then there's still this fear that holds you back to take the next step. Like, I'll admit that's where I got to. I started off with being had very low self-worth. Okay. And that piece I built up for the last 5.5 years. That's what I worked on, or really last 5 years. I built up that piece of my self-esteem, my self-worth. And I finally got to a place where I believed myself to be this individual, and I was worthy, and blah, blah, blah. But that got me to this level. Now I wanted to go to this level. And so that piece is holding me back. The unknown, like having never been at that particular level before, or saying, I just need to trust in faith and have unwavering faith, like just take the leap and just jump. And it's not that I have a fear of anything in the past, because the interesting thing is, when I was younger in my 20s, I used to just do that. I would just do it. I would just go. I didn't really put much thought into it. I just knew that I would be able to figure it out along the way, which I always did. But then somewhere along the line, it's not even somewhere along the line. What happens is complacency is really like a death to your soul. Like, when you become complacent, you think that you are happy, you think that everything is beautiful, you think that you are at peace, but staying still is not peaceful. It's calming, but it's not peace, because there will be a point where your spirit will say, wait a minute, something's wrong. And it could take a few years, but it'll get to that point saying, wait a minute, I'm looking around now, and we got to this level and this was great, but we need to keep going for whatever our reasoning, So complacency really is not a good place to be at all. You can make stops along the way. You can chill out, you can relax along your journey, but you always have to keep going on. And I think sometimes people think, I don't want to keep traveling. Why do I have to keep on my journey? I'm tired already. I don't want to keep going. But it's not an exhausting trip if you know when to.
It's the reason for your existing. You are on
Exactly.
a journey from birth
Exactly.
until death. And for those are the complacent ones that complain and blame everyone around you. And then it's everybody's fault. And I'm this way, and I'm not love, and I'm not this. Those are people who gave up halfway in the beginning of the road. So yeah. So it's but like I said, for those who have been stuck for years, like the badass was, and then she talks about coming out of it, and she talks about the steps and all of that. Just know there's hope. There's hope for you to live a good life. Stressing over the simplest things, you're killing yourself. Getting defensive when somebody says something to you about something that is factual, you're killing yourself. Accept it. But you can't get defensive. You can't get, what's that word I'm talking about? Because what's the other word with the S? People become sensitive. You can't be defensive, sensitive, and then act strong, because you're sending so many painful mixed messages to yourself that you become exhausted. What does that cause? Strokes, heart attack, gout.
That's cognitive
cancer.
dissonance.
Yeah.
And that's what I've had. Listen.
And then don't blame McDonald's if you get cancer, if you have a stroke. It's because of all the internal garbage that you are not.
That's correct.
Purging.
That's correct. And I'm going to go even one further with what to add on to what Guru was saying. If you are sensitive, but if you view it as a weakness, but not as a strength, that's what's also going to cause the cognitive dissonance. If you like, I know I'm a sensitive individual, and for a while I thought that was a downfall of mine, but that actually really does well for me for what I do as a coach. So that sensitivity became my strength, and so that I can go forward with. I can be courageous and brave with that. So that piece doesn't get in the way of me moving forward. What gets in the way of me moving forward sometimes is my thought of overthinking, not believing that I have the ability to do it like I used to do, like to be able to just step in. And the excuse, well, back then I was single. Back then it was just me I had to worry about and a couple of dogs. But now it's like I have a couple of dogs, a couple of kids, and I have 2 aging parents, and I want to be able to move on and live my life and go forward. But. So that's the part that we have to start. We have to start and look at it and say, okay, if I have the ability, if I have within me the power of unlimited potential, then the universe will line up accordingly. So when I do take that leap of faith and just pack up my stuff and go to wherever I'm going, it will work out, because that is the journey that I'm supposed to be on. When we sit and we are depressed and frustrated or sad or anxious, we wake up every day, we have aches and pains, physical aches and pains. We don't feel well. We feel like we have to eat, and then we eat something and we don't feel good about it. Why did I eat that? If we are doing that, the big question that you need to ask yourself is, am I inhibiting myself in my life? Am I truly happy where I am? Because Gwen had said, it's easier to change your state of mind to be happy than to be miserable. Depends. Some people will live in that misery just because it's less energy. You have to expend less energy because it's what they know. So usually when you start to get really uncomfortable, think about this. If you're wearing a pair of shoes and you've been out for a couple hours and your shoes are really starting to hurt your feet and your feet are getting uncomfortable, and you have the option to change into a more comfortable pair of shoes, what the hell are you going to do? You're going to change to a more comfortable pair of shoes. You're going to make the effort to do it. Yet we choose to stay in the discomfort because we've decided that it's more comfortable. It's easier that way. What does it take to get to that, out of that, to get so uncomfortable that we decide to choose ourselves?
You got to light firecrackers up your ass and know that you're worth it, because you know what? A lot of people, they mismanage words, so they mismanage words and then they apply it to themselves.
Yes.
There's a negative and a positive to every word. So I grew up having words a certain way. Then I read about them. And then there's words like, you know what? I would rather be conscious about being compassionate and empathetic than sensitive. Because sensitive, to me, it's a seesaw. Maybe we went through different experiences. When Mel, what's that lady's name? Brene Brown or whoever talked about it's okay to be vulnerable. To a certain extent.
Oh, Brene Brown, you talking about?
Whoever wrote about being vulnerable.
Brene Brown.
And I read up on her. I watched her TED Talks, and because that word was always a negative for me. Being vulnerable equals being weak and pathetic. And then, people play with words, which is good, because there's good and bad in everything. And that's what I mean, because whatever the badass Buddha may think is phenomenal, that works for her, I can say it don't work for me. It's just not my cup of tea. It's not my gig. I'm not going to do that, because I learn differently, or I absorb differently, or I stand my ground differently. So you have to try certain things, but there are words. Gwen, will get to you. So to me, being sensitive isn't something I want to be all the time. I want to be aware. I want to be conscious.
Yep.
And be empathetic. Being vulnerable, to me, being a molestation and rape survivor, vulnerability is something that, I'm not going to use that word. That word is not good for me. I'm not there. I'm not that person. I'm not a victim. None of that. But being vulnerable, no. I read up. Maybe it's because I read up and I'm on the chat with the human trafficking, so that word does something to me. So be careful with the wordplay as well. But you know what? If you're gonna capture me, I'm an enigma, and I'm okay with that. So listen to words, study words, see what works good for you. Because sometimes when you say a word like vulnerability, if I say, "Oh, it's good to be vulnerable," when I hear it, then my spirit's gonna feel something different because my spirit has been through every battle with me.
That's correct. That's how you define it. Because if you find that vulnerability is a power, which is what she did with her research with Brene Brown, what Brene Brown found is that the people who embraced their vulnerability, like understood it, they didn't announce it, they didn't live a life of vulnerability. What they're saying is once they understood the areas in their life that they were vulnerable, that gave them strength to go beyond it. She didn't say to live a life of being vulnerable. She meant that once you understood and became aware of your vulnerability, that you decided, I'm going to become stronger as a result of it. That's
Yeah.
what she's
Oh
talking
no,
about.
I absolutely knew what she meant. Some people are okay. Again, it's a wordplay. I'm a wordsmith, so people will use words. Sensitive. Maybe it's because I've always been so honest and blunt that a lot of people like, "Oh, you hurt my feelings." Well, I'm sorry that you're sensitive, and that has always been my response for as long as I can go back and remember. You got offended because I used a word that offended you, but then you're accusing me of it. I'm sorry you're sensitive, which means next time don't come talk to me because I'm going to always be who I am. And if you're not going to let go of that little sensitivity part that everything offends you, then we shouldn't be together. So what is that? That's me holding my ground, being uninhibited to how other people and their drama, because that's not my issue. And that in itself is a way of teaching people and giving them something to reflect on. Am I really that soft? Am I getting offended because I have stuff I have to work on? Absolutely, it does. So you go around being a teacher while people are hating you, and that's okay. And can you answer Gwen's question?
Yes. Yes. So Gwen brought up a really question, and then you actually answered it, because she says, how do you start the conversation with someone about moving forward from the past when they get defensive? Okay. And it starts with compassion. When you ask them a question or you make recommendations and they get defensive, that's when you have to compassionately and ask them, I feel you getting, or I hear you getting defensive. Why are you getting defensive? And if they say, I'm not getting defensive, and say, that is defensive by you saying that. So what's really going on here? What's the deeper picture? Like what is it that's bothering you, that as to what I'm saying? You could only ask so many questions and you can only go so deep with an individual. They have to still take it. You could only pass them the baton. They have to run with it. You could only bring them to the water. They have to drink it. It's all those sayings. The best way to do it, Gwen, is for you to make the choices in your life and live the life for yourself, and then throw out breadcrumbs to those people to
Absolutely.
say, hey, you know what? They see what you're doing, and then you sort of remind you, like you place it out there. You say, hey, I just want to share this with you. This is what I'm doing today, and it felt really good. Or this is what I was doing today, and it was really hard, but I did it anyway. And you throw that out there, and it's really up to them. Like, I see this with my mother as well. My mother gets very defensive on certain pieces. And I've even asked her before, like, why is it that you get so defensive with that? She's like, I'm not defensive. And I said, yeah, you are.
You got
And
defensive about being accused of being defensive.
defensive,
That's
right.
a devil in me.
And then I say, well, what is it? Come on, talk to me. Like, what's really going on? Why is that such an issue for you? And some days she'll open up, and other days she'll be like, I don't know. I don't, there's nothing. I don't want to talk about it. So but I grew up in a household of avoidance, man. Let me tell you, I grew up with both parents who would just rather avoid things than deal with things head on. They would rather pretend like things weren't, a certain way. And my mom to this day is the same way. She's the same exact way. And I could see it in her face that she holds back. She doesn't say things. And it's really eaten away at her. I mean, she's 85 and she's in fairly good health. So that hasn't really done that. But I see it in her eyes. Like, I see it in her eyes. And that hit me hard. I don't want to be that way. It is not your job, Gwen, to help the people around you. All you can do is change you and hope that they pick up
That
those
your light
breadcrumbs and they
shines
fly.
through. Yeah,
Yeah.
that you shed a light from your
Yeah.
core onto them when you're talking to them.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just the energy, the vibrations, your spirit.
Yes.
Because see, those three words mean the same thing, but different people use it in different ways. And then that's what you have to let them feel and absorb from you. And they might not understand it and even get upset with you because this transformation is happening within them. Because like anything, it's all spiritual. When people say, oh, the universe or God, I prefer God, but I also use the universe. But, it's everything is about spirit. So align your spirit. Make it the warrior that you were born to make it. When you empower your spirit and let it be uninhibited, right? You allow your spirit to be the uninhibited force that it was born into you to be. That's when you become like one of the best teachers out there through action. That's where you get a following because you're walking in this magnificent, magical light, being who you are, not worrying about what other people think about you because you're not hurting anyone. You're walking in your truth. We all have a purpose in this world. The journey never ends until our last breath. And then our spirit travels to the next realm. So who's to say it ends at any given time, at any age? So you have to be the love of your life. And in doing that, you will enrich the lives of everyone who comes in contact, whether it was for a day, an hour, riding the train from Connecticut to New York, which I want to do soon, whether it's a bus ride, whether it's your freaking Uber driver. It happens with all the people in your life because you are walking in an uninhibited, truthful soul. And that's what we need to do. So when you come across, let me tell you, I have a lot of defensive motherfuckers in my family. Okay? Who, you know what they tell me? Oh, shut up. You think you know it all. And I'm like, duh, I do. Right? Because I know what my truth is. And that's all I need to know. I don't need to know about you and your truth and everybody else's truth. I need to be reminded of mine because in doing that, then it overflows. And I say overflow, but the badass Buddha said the same thing. We leave breadcrumbs. And then hopefully they find their way to themselves. But all we could do is illuminate, like the street lights. Some streets have them, some don't. They just help guide you to wherever the hell you're going. That's what we are in the lives of people. That's why we will suffer. That's why we would ask that question, what's going on? I try to do everything right and nothing falls into place because we are that vessel. And things do fall into place. Sometimes we're too busy worrying, why isn't it on our time? Everything is a timing factor. But, look at that. Badass wrote her first book and it's a bestseller. And that's what I wanted her to really brag about today because, we're in it. Chanel hasn't been on, which I wish she was on. We're all in it, but she brought us to it. So the spotlight, although the light is within all the authors in that book, the spotlight is her because she began, she invited, we participated, she closed, and she made it happen. Her first book. So that's something to be, bye-bye. That's something to be proud of. And I don't hear her talk much about it. So views can go out. Wait till the book cover because it's true. You feel it, you read it. Because you know what? Yeah, I'm a 3-time published author, about to be a 5th because my 4th is her badass story. So what happens? We have to do what we're placed on this earth to do without giving a shit how people look at us. Be uninhibited even towards your children because they're going to grow up and leave your ass. My son would always say, don't embarrass me. We will go places. And I said, no, don't allow yourself to get embarrassed because I'm going to be me because I laugh loud, because I walk in and I own the building.
Yeah.
No matter who's the owner, because that's my spirit. That's my personality. I've never been ashamed of it. So my kids are going to like it or they're not going to like it. It's not my concern to make them happy at all times. What am I taking from them if I'm trying to appease them and find every comfort in the world so that they have to walk in and not work? What am I creating?
You're creating an awful situation.
Individuals that would never get on in life because they're not. So you know what? Get upset with me. Hate me. I used to tell my kid, my daughter, you can hate me. You can tell your friends. You can write it in your journal. You can yell it in your head. You can whisper it. But the minute you say it out loud to me, I'm knocking your teeth out. But you can hate me all you want because that is your right. But I am not going to accept you speaking to me any kind of way. And guess what? My daughter's 35 years old. The other day she came, she was here visiting, and she said something, Margie, and I looked at her and I said, do I need to get up from this couch? 35. She has a daughter that's gonna be 19. My sister looked, my niece looked, they all look, but they're not shocked because they know I'll get up and drop her on her ass at 35. Why? Because I've always been true to me, and I've always told them since they were little. So just, love yourself. That's what we talk about. Love yourself, accept yourself, get to know yourself. Who the hell are you? What's your favorite ice cream? Like people say, I don't know that question. I can't. What is your favorite ice cream? What's your favorite color? Do you prefer the sun or the moon? Like, ask yourself those questions and then figure out who you are at the end. And we love today. Badass, we were on point with, did anybody take note of her necklace?
I know, it's so pretty.
I loved it
I
when she
love
wore
this
it last year.
necklace. I know. I like it. I forgot I had it.
It reminds us how it's been scientifically proven, every single snowflake is different. Yet they fall in unison.
Nice, Glenn.
And they unite on the ground until it's time to go. There's so many things we can learn from simple raindrops to simple snowflakes that takes about 8 months for it to fall from the sky to reach us, believe that or not. But yeah, look at as simple. Become so uninhibited that you really take the time out and study the microscopic things of the snowflakes, and then you won't feel so alone in this world.
So ask yourself these questions. Am I holding myself back? What am I not doing? What do I really, really want to do? Like, if I go out someplace, do I feel embarrassed? Do I feel like I need to be less of myself to let other people shine? That right there is, you have to swap that piece out. If you have to make yourself smaller to make somebody else bigger, then that's a no-no. And I will tell you this, that sometimes, like, I have a very big personality, especially now. And when I'm with my children, like, sometimes it's their moment. Or if I'm with Gladiator Guru, it's her moment. And I am not going to jump in and be my personality self, like to jump in and take the limelight. But I will say this, though, my part of my personality is also knowing when to let others step into that spotlight, and I become the very willing and supportive audience member, because that is who I am. That's who I know who I am. I don't have to walk in a party and take it over. I know that sometimes I can be.
I don't have to take it over. My spirit is that strong in knowing who it is that when I walk in somewhere, I own that motherfucking spot. And it starts with me saying hello, me smiling, and me laughing. It's nothing
but that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you are you. You're who you are. What I mean is that if that is not my moment, I know it's not my moment, but I'm always me. I'm always me, and that's the point. If you have to knock yourself down to boost somebody else up, or if somebody tells you that you have to be somebody else because, oh my God, when you said that with your kids, that what did you say that your son said? Don't embarrass me. And you said, don't let yourself get embarrassed. That is a beautiful line. That is such a beautiful line.
And he started saying that when he was 6, because I called him puto, my little puto. And now he's 30. He's going to be 32. And when people are like, what's your name? He's like, puto. You call me puto. So, it is about that. I don't need the limelight. I don't need people to say, why do you think I have a hard time when I got to introduce myself and say what I am? I just say, I'm magically orgasmic. Because I don't need accolades from nobody. I don't need somebody to say, oh, you know that girl Margie? No. Just like I don't care what they say bad about me. You know why? Because I know who I am. And whenever I walk somewhere, I walk that my spirit is like the lighthouse light bulb.
Yeah.
I'm going across that water in a glow. Why? Because I walk in my truth. So the thing is that I don't need accolades. I don't need people to boost me up. I don't need you to do none of this stuff for me. I don't need to be on every platform to get noticed. You know why? Because I know who I am. And for those who know me and that are on today, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't need to be out there and doing anything. If I do something I'm proud of, then I'll put it out there. Just I know a lot of people are leaving, but my audio book should be out between Christmas and New Year's on 70 platforms worldwide. That I will talk about. You know why? Because I paid and I worked my ass off for that book. And it was done with sweat and blood and a lot of salty tears. Soul Searching for Peace is a book about lost, pain, sorrow, and strength. So yeah, so that I will. So, you know, the badass Buddha, from when I met her to now, she has come into her own. She hasn't fought for anything. She hasn't stood by the water and said, well, I want to be this, and created something out of nothing. She worked with her broken pieces and glued that shit back. And she kintsugied a masterpiece out of who she is. Is there room for growth? Is there
Sprung a
room
little
to
leak
learn more?
in the repaired vase this year, but that's okay.
The kintsugi, the art of kintsugi. When in Japan something breaks, they put it back together with gold, so it becomes a masterpiece. So that's how we all are. Because Lori's not going to be me and I'm not going to be Lori, but together we have a bond. We have room that we learn from each other. But she has her views and I have mine. But the core of it all is still the same, to help inspire other women to be the best them they could possibly be. And we do it in different ways, but it's still the same outcome to whomever it is that is our client. So anybody needs
because we are authentically us, and we are uninhibited and no longer, and refuse to no longer. Well, for you, you've never been that way, but we do not hold back. We do not play small, and we do not apologize for who we are. We are disruptors. We are unapologetically courageous. We are magically orgasmic. We are spiritually grounded and beyond authentic, right?
Yeah.
I memorized it. I finally got it without
And you know, it's and Gwen says she stood over 10 years because she had to learn to love herself and learn what I love. Yes, thank you she said we're two unstoppable queens.
Yes,
you know, and just be you, just be open. That's what's being uninhibited, is be open to tasting, to smelling, to watching, to listening. And then be kind to your heart, because when you're kind to your own heart, then you give that kindness to others. But be kind to yourself. Do things that you like. Soak in a tub, you know, masturbate, go have an orgasm. Be kind to yourself so that you can be kind to everyone around you. I'm sorry, we went over, but this was really good.
No, it was really wonderful. So listen, we are not done with the conversation yet, okay? But next week, we're going to have some fun, a little bit of fun with it too. So Tuesday, the conversation is who makes you hot. So come with your list of all the people that make you hot. And it doesn't even have to be, you know, a man.
Who's yours? Who's yours?
I'm gonna wait till Tuesday.
Come on, I think I know it.
No. Oh, I have a list. I'm gonna give you a whole list. So who makes you hot on Tuesday, and then on Thursday, before as we get to New Year's Eve, on Friday, on Thursday, the title is "Are You Done with the Bullshit?" So are you done? And we're gonna have Nicole Young on there talking about getting ready for the new year. But seriously, that's the question you need to ask yourself going into that show. Are you done with the bullshit? Meaning your own bullshit, not anybody else's. Your own bullshit.
Stop blaming everyone around you and inquire within. Thank you for that last thing, because that's awesome. You know, one of the people that makes me hot during the Christmas season is the Grinch, because people think he hates Christmas. What he hates is hypocritical people. Yes. And that's what I love about the Grinch. And people just make him out to be this bad guy. But really listen or read or watch the movie, and you see it's nothing to do with joy and happiness. It's with the fakeness of the people you surround yourself with, that chip at your core. So pay attention.
Yes. And that his heart was, you know, a few sizes too small, and he needed love. So that's
all we need. All you need is love.
All you need is love. Good way to end. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a beautiful Christmas. We will see you on Tuesday. Do your year-end in review. Work on it. We'll check in with you on Tuesday. And from the Badass Buddha, remember, be you, be real, and be extraordinary.
Yes. Remember to use all your senses today going forward, and breathe in the beauty and breathe out the bullshit. Namaste.
Namaste and Merry Christmas.